What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Gravity Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Chris. Thank you for choosing to tune in today. Hey, folks, I'm excited about today's episode. It's going to be a little bit different than normal. I'm going to be bringing on 5 different men, 3 firefighters, 2 folks within the mental health community that are collaborating together to bring training across Washington State. The training is focused on the fire service, firefighters, paramedics, employees of their families. However, really, if someone's a first responder and they want to sign up for the training, they're probably going to get the thumbs up, because what they're trying to do is to help the first responder community, and in this case specifically the fire service, recognize the consequence on the body that these jobs have. These jobs are rough, like physically rough, to where we get physically injured sometimes, and also mentally rough. They also injure our brains. And there's specific things we can do to be able to prevent injury and have a longer, more fulfilling career and have a longer and more fulfilling life. And the training is actually being organized by Deer Hollow. You've heard me talk about Deer Hollow before, folks. It's the PTSD recovery center that I went to in an inpatient environment back in 2023 when I realized all of a sudden that I wasn't well. I realized I needed more support and more training, and I wasn't going to get enough just here at home in the community. And so I made a really tough choice to go check myself in to heal up. And although Deer Hollow is there to help people with that, they'll answer your call. They're also in the preventative health business as well. People don't necessarily have to go to inpatient. In fact, not everyone needs to. There's outpatient options. And then what Deer Hollow is doing with this training that they're offering to the fire service around the state of Washington here in 2025 is trying to give people tangible tools, scientifically proven tools that they can use right now at home to deal with the trauma, to heal up their brains, and then have better lives and careers. I mean, I don't know about you folks, but it doesn't get much better than that. So I'm excited for us to get into this episode. You know, usually I spotlight an organization, folks. I don't think there's a better organization for me to spotlight right now other than Deer Hollow. That's the hat I'm wearing today, the shirt I'm wearing. It's the place that I went that supported me in my healing process. So if you look down in the show notes, there's going to be a lot of links today, folks, from contact information for Deer Hollow, a phone number for Deer Hollow, the contact for all my guests. So there's going to be a lot of activity down in the show notes, folks. But if you have any of those type of questions, know that you can look down there to get the information. With that, folks, let's get into this great episode with my brothers from the fire service and my friends from Deer Hollow. Gentlemen, welcome. I have never had this many people in the virtual room for a podcast before, so I'm equal parts nervous of how this is going to go, but I got a little bit of excitement in my belly too, just because of who's in the room. I don't even know how to kick this off with so many amazing faces, so maybe I'm just going to go around, and if you don't mind, just say who you are, what you've done in your life. Don't go into like I don't need to know what you've been freaking doing for the last 20 years. What are you doing right now? How long you've been doing it? And then we can maybe kind of patch it together with what has brought all you gentlemen together. So Greg, you're in my upper left square. Do you mind kind of kicking us off? Who are you? What do you do for a living?
Absolutely. Well, first, thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, this is pretty rad. My name is Greg Rudiger. I'm currently the captain of health and safety at South County Fire. I am actually a third generation fireman and actually fire captain, dad, grandpa, and both my brothers. So I've been doing this my whole life. I've got 26 years on the job, and I started a company, RAD, Resilient Another Day, training and consulting. And I'm out there doing this. I'm preaching resiliency and wellness, and I'm super stoked to be here.
I love it. Thanks, Greg. Jordan, you're next up my squares. My brother that hooked me up with this amazing hat that I'm currently wearing. How are you, brother?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good.
I've got to get you another hat. I'll send you a new one. I'll give you some different colors after this. You send me your
Okay.
address. I'll get it over to you.
Sounds good.
I'm Jordan Lee. I'm the Director of Professional Services for Deer Hollow. And I've done that for a decade now. And I would say more than that, I'm in my 17th year of recovery. And I've dedicated my life 17 years ago of being of service to those in need. And that is my family, my higher power, and my primary purpose is to help those in need.
I love it, Jordan. Well, you've been there for me when I made a call, so I appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely.
John, good morning, or I guess good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm John Gallup. I too am happy to be here. I feel like I'm in great company, so great to be a part of this. I'm Health and Safety Chief, Division Chief for Puget Sound Fire. I also am the co-chair for the Washington State Council of Firefighters Behavioral Health Committee. And in March, I'll hit 35 years on the job. So I love the job. It's been great to me and my family. I too am in recovery. I hit 8 years in December.
Wow, that's amazing, John. Good work. Thanks, brother.
You bet.
Matt, you're my next square.
I am Matt Quackenbush. I am the Director of Education and Training for Deer Hollow and First Watch Wellness. I'm a psychotherapist. I've been working in mental health for about 20 years. About the last decade of my life has been dedicated to figuring out what in the hell is going on in the first responder noggin.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I love it. That's what I do, and I'm excited to be here with all you fellas. Can't wait to dig in.
Love it. Well, thanks, brother. Tall Tim Sears. If you haven't seen him, folks, you'll figure out why they call him Tall Tim. I tried switching his name over to Tiny, and I was calling him Tiny, but no one else decided to let that nickname stick, and so it went back to Tall Tim. How are you, brother?
Chris, it is so good to see you, man. You know, my name is Tim Sears, and most people call me Tall Tim. And it is absolutely amazing for me to be a part of this conversation and to be a part of this group. I tell a lot of people now that there's before Deer Hollow and there's after Deer Hollow. And I had the absolute pleasure to have Chris as my roommate at Deer Hollow. So I am alumni of Deer Hollow. Chris is alumni of Deer Hollow. And it's because of Matt and Jared that we are actually here on this planet because of what they have brought to the first responder world. And I'm so thankful to be a part of this and to be able to speak on behalf as a 44-year firefighter. I just hit a wall, and I'm just happy to be on the other side of that wall because of the help that I was able to receive.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure to be here.
Tall Tim, no surprise that you're going to set this up and like tee up the ball for us here because I really didn't know how we were going to do this, but I think you just did a really good job there pointing out the work that that Matt Quackenbush and that Jared, I know Jordan oftentimes was along as well, but the work, Matt, that you did for a number of years here in, I would say you were planting seeds. You were helping us realize resources that were available to help heal our brains, help train us how to manage stress. I would have never known of Deer Hollow. When I hit rock bottom, I would have been at a loss. I don't know what I would have done in that moment back in 2023. But because you had come to town, because I had heard both your presentations, Jared presentations, other folks that you guys brought along with you that provided great information, I had tools. I had the ability to make some phone calls. Do you mind maybe opening us up with that? Just what has been this training that you were doing initially for law enforcement historically in Washington State and probably around the country?
Yeah. How long ago was it, Jordan? Freaking 5 years ago now? 6?
Almost.
Who knows?
It was almost 5 years ago that I decided to stop doing one thing and get on the preventative side. I think we felt like we kind of were really, really good at helping the individuals after crisis or recent suicide attempts or at their lowest low. And then we've always tried to shift into what's the preventative side? How can we get out there and stop people from needing the help? And that was our mission when we came up with that plan about 5 years ago.
Because I've been doing mental health stuff for quite a long time, and it's very, very apparent that the foundation for change is just awareness or a lack thereof, right? So essentially, we need education, we need information, and if we can be effective and methodical and accurate in the information that we're giving people, and that if that information is actionable, we're going to actually create change for people if they're willing to take the right steps. And so when we started doing this about 5 years ago, travel around, uh, Jared Nesri would tell his incredible story of just how awful it could get and then how amazing it can also get. And then my job was to come in the end and for 2 or 3 hours just kind of help people understand, like, there's hope. Here's the stuff that works. We know this works. It's been studied. I'm a nerd and I've read all the data and research, and this is what works. This is what we've done in residential treatment. This is what we use day in and day out to help people change. And you can start tomorrow with this. And if this isn't working for you and there is significant problems in your life, like, you can't do this on your own. Traditionally, in the first responder culture, you know, we have this idea that it's got to be done alone, but also not really, right? Like, we rely on our brothers, we rely on our sisters every single day to get the job done. If I'm in trouble, what's the first thing I'm going to do? We're going to call for backup, right? Until it comes to my mental health, then it's like, I don't need backup. I actually don't need help at all. I'm just going to go over here and freaking deal with it on my own and suffer. Backups for the job, not at home. And so kind of flipping the script on that and being like, well, what does that really look like in the world of actual brain health, mental health? What could you possibly do? And that seemed to open a lot of doors for a lot of people. And so now we just kind of keep running with it. We're just making it grow and trying to get better at it and more effective at it, and incorporating people with amazing stories and better resources. And as we do that, the message is it's getting out. We're creating change. And that's kind of the goal, right?
Yeah. John, as Matt was talking there, I saw you shaking your head. Yes. What's on your mind as you're hearing Matt's words?
Well, I actually was talking to a fellow firefighter earlier today, and he's one who needs to get in front of somebody. He needs some help, and his immediate response back to me was, I don't want to put the stuff that I have on somebody else. That's not fair for me to put it on somebody else. And so I don't want to do that. And you know, of course we kept talking through that point, but that's that firefighter mentality. Yeah, I'm carrying around a baggage of junk, but I don't want to put that on anybody else. I don't want to burden anybody else, so I'm just going to keep carrying it around. And that's that thing that we got to break through. And Matt and Jordan going out and taking a preventative approach, that's what will break through and start to let people know that no, that's not how this works. We share the loads. We share our stuff with each other. We push it around. That's how we all get better.
Yeah. We're the problem, I think it's both a positive and a negative is we're the helpers. People call 911 because they need medics, they need firefighters, they need police officers. And I've seen this for people in these helping professions that it's really hard when you need the help. And sometimes I even like to take that word help out. All right, hold on. It's not even that you need help. You need training. That's what this is, folks. This is training.
Mm.
Like this is training on how to process trauma, training on what's going on in your brain. That's something I've heard Matt talk about, is helping us understand actually what's happening. And once you understand that this is a really normal human response to the not normal stuff that we see and do every day, you don't feel like there's anything wrong with you. You realize, oh, okay, I'm just got a lot of miles on this car of my body and my mind. I don't know, Greg, what's been your experience, brother, from being a firefighter?
Yeah, mine's a pretty interesting story. I didn't go to I didn't go to Deer Hollow because I was too afraid. My blessing is my curse, is what I tell people. I'm third generation. I have a dad, a grandfather, two brothers, uncles. I mean, I'm taken home from the fire station or to the fire station when I'm a kid, right? It was not okay to not be okay. Oh, you'll be fine. And it was nothing against my dad. It was nothing against it's the stigma of, you'll be fine. Have a beer, right? Have a chew, go surf. Like, you know, you can process it. That wasn't a thing. That's not a thing. And also it was a different time. They didn't understand, right? I say we're the special forces of the civilian world. They didn't understand that we have to compartmentalize to do the job, and then we have to decompress afterwards. They didn't understand that. It was all just, okay, what? We did it, and then we went back. Now, things have changed. The world's changed. The calls have changed. It is in 26 years, we've gone from I didn't have a radio when I started to all risk, right? And so we're seeing a lot more stuff. And so the big thing is breaking the stigma to say it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
And to deal with it. And like you said, what I'm doing, and I've taught all over the country fire stuff. You know, I started the Rio Hondo Truck Academy, and I teach all that stuff. And that's how RAD changed to resiliency is let's get ahead of it.
Yes.
Let's take a proactive, we can be reactive, right? Luckily, I didn't kill myself. Luckily, I didn't quit. Luckily, I didn't take out my family when I almost drove into a tree. Okay. That's real. I didn't have anybody to be like, get your ass to Deer Hollow. Like, go, no, I'm fine. No, I'll do this on my own, right? No, I'm John Wayne. Well, I'm John Rambo. I'm leave work at work, leave home at home. That's all. It's terrible. And so now I get to be relatable and say, I wish I would have gone. I didn't. I thank God, truly, and from my wife and my faith that I got through it. But yeah, we have to get ahead of it. We can reaction, but now what we're doing is taking a proactive approach to tighten those springs to say, it's okay not to be okay when we hit this. Your springs are tighter. It's going to be natural. Let the emotions, we have emotions. We're human. We have to acknowledge them. We have to recognize them. And that's what we wouldn't do before. You couldn't cry at the fire station, right? You never show weakness. I don't like mint and chip ice cream. Guess what I bought every day? Mint and chip ice cream, because it's my favorite, right? And so that's one of the things. And with this group, that's really where we're at is the education piece and letting people know it's okay. And it's a big thing. We're now, decon's a big thing, right? Like decon cancer. Cancer is not killing us the way suicide and mental health is. Yes. Let's decon the mind, take decompression breaks, have the time to downregulate, have the time to do it, right? And I'm beyond grateful for these guys, and I'm thankful because I survived, and now I'm here to tell my story. And I didn't get the help. It was, again, my wife and the grace of God, I'm here. And I want to share that there are other avenues out there that we need to go get.
Here in a second, I want to hear from Matt or Jordan some of the specifics about, what do you do to construct this training to help? But Tim, I know you knew, and you did reach out to the resource much like I did. So Tim, you were at that rock bottom as well. What did that look like? And what did it take for you to pick up the phone and make a call? Who did you call and how did you get there?
I got so dark that my wife had to take me to the doctor. And once that happened, that's when a doctor said, who happened to be a veteran. And I mean, how do you go to the doctor, right? You go to the doctor because you hurt your arm or, you broke your toe or whatever, right? You go in there, hey, doc, how are you doing? Well, how are you doing? Well, I feel like picking up a gun. Okay. That's how I feel. Right. And so then I tell him my story and I'm starting to lose it. He starts losing it and he apologizes for losing it. He goes, I said, dude, I don't get it. Right. And he goes, you got PTSD. And I said, what? No, that's for veterans. That's for people that, and he's like, yeah, I am a veteran. I have it. You have it. A lot of us have it. And it started down this road. And actually, for me, after after a month from retiring from the Kirkland Fire Department, I was introduced to this organization called Stronger Families. And this guy, Noel Metter, called me and said, hey, I want to tell you about this thing that we're doing for the military. We want to bring it into the first responder world. And I said, great, good luck with that. Right. And then 3 years later, I just finished working with Stronger Families, building that up for the first responder side of things. And during that time is when I was out speaking on behalf of Stronger Families and couples retreats and different trainings, is when I met Matt. And Matt started talking from the stage at first responder conference, Sean Thomas's first responder conferences. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the first time was in Florida. And I heard Matt speak, and it was one of those things, Chris, where no one else was in the room except for Matt and me. And I felt like he was talking directly to me. And I was blown away. Now, I've got a really hard head and I'm an old guy. And so it took me about 3 or 4 more times to listen to him. I'd go to these conferences on behalf of Stronger Families. I'm sitting there at the resource table representing Stronger Families, and I'm listening to Matt. And it was the second time I listened to Matt, I lost it. I just started crying. And I didn't know why. I still didn't understand it. The third time I went, I listened to him. I came home and I told my wife, I said, I think I do have this PTSD thing. And so she starts looking it up and she's like, absolutely. You've got all this stuff. You know, what are you going to do now? You know, she goes, you need to go back and talk to this Matt guy, you know? And I said, I don't know if I can do that. I mean, he's kind of a big deal. And so I go to another conference and he's there. And I said, look, man, you don't know me, but I want to talk to you for a couple of minutes. And he goes, tell Tim, yeah, get over here, man, let's talk. And I kind of shared a little bit of my story and what I was feeling. And he was just like, this is what you need. This is where you need to go. This is what you need to do. And I was still reluctant. I was still reluctant because of Greg. It's like, no, I can't ask for help because we are the first responders. We're the ones that go out and help other people. First responders don't want help. They hate that word help, but I love the word training. And so when he said, we can train you on how to do things better, he said, let's go through a 6-week course prior to, because I couldn't go. I just started this, you know, with this Stronger Families organization. And so I did it for 6 weeks. And at the end of the 6 weeks, they evaluate you. It was an outpatient program. It was on Zoom. And they said, hey, Tim, we really think you need to come in here and, you know, get some more work done. And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay now. Thanks. And so I walked away. And then a few months later, I'm calling Matt saying, dude, I'm worse than I was before. And that's when it was like, Matt's like, okay, I'm going to talk to Jordan. We're going to make some phone calls and we're going to get you in. And next thing I know, I'm on an airplane and I'm going to Deer Hollow in Draper, Utah. And it was absolutely one of the hardest things I've ever done because 3 days prior to me leaving, one of my best friends, Bill Hoover, and his wife, Christy, were killed in a car accident, head-on car accident down outside of Vegas on their way back to Arizona. And I was leaving to go to Draper, Utah. And this was one of my brothers that I got hired with that I absolutely loved. We did a men's group together with firefighters. I mean, it was a big deal. And I'm like, I can't leave. I can't go. And one of my buddies called me that was in that group and he said, what would Bill want you to do? Mm. But I want to say something, Chris, because this is really important.
Say it, brother.
Having John Gallup in this room is so vital. John represents the Washington State Council firefighters. That's all of the firefighters in the state of Washington. The IFF, the Washington State Council, is part of the IFF, the International Association of Firefighters. And having John in this room and having him be a part of what Deer Hollow is trying to put together is huge. It's huge because it's all about education. And John understands the importance of that. And what John is sitting there representing is in Olympia. He's fighting for the rights of the firefighters across the state of Washington. And he is part of the committee that's doing that. And I just want to really commend him and the others that are representing all of us firefighters that are out there every day on the line, that he's willing to take the time to be a part of this and go across the state. It was John's idea to go across the state so that every firefighter in the state of Washington can learn more about the training that's available on this mental health and wellness.
John, why make this a priority? Here's the reality. I'm not a firefighter. But what I know of being a police officer is there are so many disciplines within the job, so many things within the job that we need to get better at. And it's not that we're bad at it. It's just, man, this is a constantly evolving technology and new safety equipment and all this stuff. Why is this important now?
Well, it's important because it's a shared disease. I mean, whether people know it or not, whether they admit it or not, it's a shared disease. When you are exposed to the inhuman things that we're exposed to, and you carry that around, and you don't have the skill set to decompress, to down-regulate, like Greg said, you end up, it builds up. And it's not that it's just in the background sitting in a dark corner. I mean, it builds on itself, it grows, it's got its own process that takes over. And for me, I went through that and I did not know what to do. I literally sat in a bedroom all by myself trying to 12-step myself, and it doesn't work. You got to have other people. And, I finally got to a point where I just decided that was it for me. I knew where my life was going. I was circling the drain, and that's all it was. And I just assumed my wife and kids would at some point wise up and disappear. And, I would come to the end of my time and that would be it. And I had no hope whatsoever. And then I found hope. And I learned that there is a way, and that each of us have it actually inside of us. It's a personal thing. I can't fix anybody else. I can't give anybody else a cure for any of this. They have to realize it themselves, and it's already in them. We just have to expose it and teach them some skills in order to do it. And it's absolutely essential because I know what that pain was like. And I know there are firefighters in Washington State, across the country, that are suffering with that same pain today. And so it's my duty to go out and try to spread that around and at least get it in front of people and let them make that choice.
Matt, we have 3 firefighters and a police officer with over a century of experience here, all talking about the same thing. What's going on inside of us? What is this job doing to us? And then kind of the follow-up, what is the training that we offer, that you offer in this training that can help us?
What inside of every human being is this immense capacity to suffer, to endure, to learn, to just trudge through freaking pain and anguish and do it for a really good cause.
Yeah.
That is ancient, man. Like that lives deep inside the souls of us human beings. And there are a small handful of human beings who choose to do that on behalf of others as their freaking job. Nothing is more commendable, nothing is more inspirational or more necessary. When you do that and you introduce unnatural, inhuman mechanisms for coping, because we have to cope with the suffering that we're enduring. Like we're going through shit. We're watching people die. We're freaking losing each other. You go into combat and you watch your brother die, right? Like that changes your soul. In the East, they don't even have a word for trauma. They just call it a soul wound. But for generations, we've had spiritual practices. We've had communities. We could sit around a campfire and talk. And now we're more isolated. We're more distant, more disconnected than we've ever been before as a society. And you can see the deterioration on a societal level of just health in general.
Yeah.
Add in heaps and heaps of pain and loss and grief and a culture that refuses to acknowledge the fact that this is difficult and you just have to soldier through and be tough and be a man, whatever the hell that freaking means. You've created a very dangerous combination, and people check out early. And I don't blame them. This is hard. Life sucks sometimes. There are days that it's unbelievable. And the way we treat each other as human beings is just unfathomable. And to have that every day, that's your day to day. You walk out and just see these fucking awful human beings just treating each other like animals. And then you're supposed to come home and tuck your kids into bed and not think about it.
Yeah.
And not talk about it ever.
Mm.
When you go to battle, you come home, you don't have to tuck your kids into bed. You sit around, you talk to your brothers, and you talk about the day, and you shoot the shit, and maybe knock back a couple of whatever, and then you freaking go to sleep, and you do it again the next day. Sure, but when it's this day in and day out, right? That's why we see these rates of post-traumatic stress among first responders are higher than amongst veterans. We see rates of suicide that are comparable and even higher in some areas, depending on the cultural milieu, right? So what we have to understand is that, like, we need to create mechanisms and structures of connection that facilitate healing. And that's what a Deer Hollow is. That's all it is. It's a structured mechanism that facilitates healing. You bring people together. They can't watch TV. They don't get on their phones. What did you guys do at night? You went and freaking sat around. Greg, right? When you healed, what did you do? You went and you found God and you got spiritual and you connected with your family and you were with your kids. John, what did you do? You went and did 12-step, man. You went and connected spiritually and you found the message of service and how we can help other people. That's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to get that out and just be like, hey, we've been healing as human beings in a certain way since the beginning of recordable time. We have to connect with one another. Right now, our answer is disconnection, and it's killing us. And so that's my idea in the beginning for the training, was to be like, let's get a bunch of people in a freaking room. I'll get up there and do my freaking monkey dance thing, and people feel stuff because I preach truth. You know, it's authentic. Like, I give a shit, man. Like, as you guys were talking, I'm over here like choking back. I get emotional because I'm so grateful for this. Like, I sat for thousands of hours with just the most lonely people, and to see people come together and like heal each other and like love on each other and care again, man. It's like, that's the only thing that I want. And so anyway, I'm just really grateful and really humbled to hear to be a part of this movement that we're trying to create, you know, because it does, man. It's changing things. You can feel it. It's different.
Yes.
Very different. This culture is different than it was 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. It's dramatically different from 10 years ago. And that's because of the work that we're doing. I know it. So
I know it is too. And your connection with the first responders, Matt, one, I think an awful lot of you, but I saw this from all the counselors there. You know, I was not the easiest of patients. I had a couple of big emotional reactions to things, and I was amazed by watching the therapist, and not just the therapist, the cook, the chef, the other client, everyone. It's like they gave me space when I needed space. They re-engaged me and gave me some pressure when I needed some pressure. Jordan took my phone call, and so I felt it. I felt that type of, hey, this is not about me just doing my job. What I felt was people who really gave a damn about me and wanted to see me be a healthy dad and a healthy husband and maybe a healthy cop again. Maybe I was going to go back on the job and be a cop again. Eventually I didn't, but that was my choice. Me and my family's choosing based, and my therapist choosing based on where I was at. But I just saw the genuine care. I mean, Jordan, you didn't have to take my call. Holy smokes. I think you were out on the golf course, if I remember right, maybe. I don't know.
That sounds exactly right.
But
Yes, he
this is
was.
why,
It
Jordan,
was.
why are you committed to this? I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, here's the deal. I have a buddy who just became a mental health professional, maybe a year ago. He is cash only and he is booked out for 6 months. Lots of people need inpatient, Jordan. Lots of people. Why this focus on the first responder community?
Oh, that's a longer answer. So the first responder community, honestly, it's part of my amends process. So Troy, the majority owner of Deer Hollow, and I'd like to talk more about the training, but when we got together 17 years ago and we were like, hey, the root of the disease is selfishness and self-centeredness. And so the solution for us was to get out and be of service to help other people because you're selfish. And all of us could relate to the selfishness in our life when we were hurting everybody around us, even when we were saying, I don't have a problem, it's the selfishness. And so after we got our stuff together and we start making amends to our family, friends, and loved ones, and then the community, we hired a killer therapist, Amy Crawford, a dual PhD that treated trauma and worked with veterans her whole life. And she said to us, you guys are so selfish. If you really want to give back, Troy and Jordan, because you guys did some awful things, then you're going to do the hardest thing that we could do, and that is work with first responders. You want to give back to the community, you want to make amends for the stuff that you guys did for decades, then we're going to switch gears and do what I want to do it the way I want to do it, and you're going to support us by helping the first responder community. And we're both like, sure, let's do that.
I guess.
And then, sure. And then what happened is we had to fire all of our staff because we brought in 10 first responders, and you type A personalities annihilated everybody in the center.
We're hard on them.
Oh my gosh, you guys are so high maintenance. Holy crap.
We are in a good way, but we are
so special. I mean, I have a terminal uniqueness, but you guys are on another level. And so I've just related it to what I've done my whole life, which is work with people that are unique, right? That's what a recovery person does. And you just shifted those gears. And then we brought in the team, and with Troy's ego and with our love, like we just were like, this is special. This is different. We were doing this before this was a thing, helping first responders, long before it was cool to do that. We've had a desire to do that. And it takes 150 staff to help 30 of you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, to do it right, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
And so the preventative side of things, it's like, we're never going to stop the people, because the people that need residential care, that's never going to go away, because you suffer alone, right? They sit there, cops, they're going to fold their arms. They're going to sit in the training. They're never going to tell anybody what's going on. But like Tim mentioned, and like Greg and like John, like everybody, if you plant that seed, you may not get it the first time we come. And when we've done the mandatory in-service, that's the guys that are sitting in the back, folding their arms saying, this is bullshit. Those are the guys that we poke at quite a bit, because we know that eventually they're going to know that there's hope, like John said.
Yeah.
We're going to plant that seed. And that was the whole concept, was like, if we just get in there and give somebody some hope by sharing Chris's story, Greg's story, Jared's story, Tim's story, John's story, you do that, and they'll relate. In the back of their head, they'll be like, I want to be like those guys. I want to be rad. I want to be happy. I want this back. And how am I going to do it? Eventually, when no one's looking, I may call and ask you guys, well, why are you smiling? Why are you hugging each other? You know what I mean? Like, what is going on? What is in the water? Like, and that's the thing, is that we believe that we can stop people from losing their jobs, destroying their marriages, taking their lives. And to me, that was exciting. When we started this 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago with Matt, we've done over 300 of these trainings and presentations, and I've been to every single one of them with these guys. And I know without a doubt, when you get the call saying, hey, you guys might have saved my life. You took the action, right? We showed up and shared the message, and we've never been able to do that with the firefighter community. They're in Washington, and with the police, Chris, you were there. We've done it. and it's a little bit different. And so with John's help, with Greg's help, and Tim's help, we're going to be able to take this training and plant that seed, we hope, in hundreds, if not thousands of Washington State firefighters, so that when that day does come, that they make that hard, vulnerable decision to reach out and say, hey, I need help.
What I love about the training is it truly is preventative. I know both Tim and I have shared our Deer Hollow story, and again, it wasn't easy work, but it was remarkable work, and I'm just very grateful for all the staff and my fellow clients that walked with me while I was there. But I mean, I've sat through your training multiple times. We brought you here to the Tri-Cities twice. I've been at first
Yes.
responder conferences and I've seen the training, and I know that it is preventative. And the more young guys and gals, firefighters, that we can get into this training, maybe they won't need inpatient. Now, like you said, Jordan, I think we'll always need it. And this is why. This is equating it over to a sports analogy. You're never going to be able to have perfect football equipment that's going to make it so that we don't have to have surgeons and physical therapists helping football players get back in the game. It's impossible. It's just too hard of a job. And fire service, emergency medicine, police work is too difficult of a job. Injuries are going to take place, and we're going to need to have different levels of care. But maybe get into the training, and I'm going to open this up to anyone who wants to answer it. Get into some of this training, and I know the answer because I've sat through it, but I want to hear it from you. What are these preventative things that you're trying to equip people with to have better careers, to be healthier through their career?
I'm going to jump in real quick just because we've all been sitting here emotional in this group. And one of my things that I came to the conclusion was vulnerability equals validity. The reason we get through to people and the reason that these 5 and 6 of us are together, there's no coincidences either. Coincidences and luck are a victim mentality. We're brought together for a reason and a purpose. We've had the courage and the awareness and the intentionality to go make this happen.
Yeah.
But it's through vulnerability equals validity. That's how we're getting through.
Yeah.
The other thing is we're taking the titles away, Chris. It's not that my buddy told me that after listening to my podcast, like, you're so much more than a 3rd generation firefighter. You got to get that out there. You're more than a 3rd generation captain. And I say in my podcast, I don't give a shit if you're a dad or an uncle or a captain or an aunt or I don't care, a fry cook. Your titles don't mean shit. You're a human being. It's the heart. Yeah. And when we strip it down and we get vulnerable and we tell these stories, it opens up the human heart. And that's the only way we get to them. We open up the human heart. Now we can rewire the non-traumatic traumatic brain injury that it's occurred, right? Not the disorder, the traumatic brain injury that's deprogrammed our Skittles. And we open up the heart, and now we don't live in fear, right? Right? The amygdala holding the fear and the doubt. We have gratitude and we have love. And so what do? We tell them it's okay not to be okay. And then we throw, right? I call it the rad way. We recognize, acknowledge, and decide. And then you throw 20 pounds of shit at a wall and you try different things. I'm a breathwork coach. I'm a relationship coach. My wife's massage. I do red light. I do yoga. Some days breath work doesn't work. Some days praying doesn't work. Some days meditating doesn't work. Some days I got to go outside and yell and punch a punching bag. I got to go run. Sometimes I need to just rest a book. And what we need to do is let everybody know it's not a one-shot fix. The other thing is we got to let people know, and we're breaking down the stigma and the vulnerability of Jordan and Matt, that it's accepted to go there. And like you said, I want to echo it. We'll never get away from it because life is going to continue to be shitty. And we have to stop thinking about you're going there as a fire captain or as a police officer or as a first responder. That's horseshit. You're getting help as a human to be the best human you can be. So we will always need inpatient. We will always need peer support, and we will always need resiliency. And that, right? I get truth bumps, and I want to yell and cry too, because it's just so powerful, the energy that you feel.
Yeah.
And that's how we heal people. And it's a collective group, because as a species, we're not called to do this alone. We're called as a group. So when we're sharing this, you feel we're not even in the same room, and I'm getting the energy of just this conversation is palpable.
Yes, I agree.
And that's what we get. And that's what my resilience another day, right? How do we be resilient another day? We go out and we have intentionality to go try something new. We have the grace to fail and to say, I'm okay to not be okay. And then you're open, and then you're going to ask for help. And then you know that. And then we train and we reprogram. It's like I said, if I could go back and do it again, because I don't live in regret either, I could have saved myself a lot of heartache and some really dark things that I went through if I would have had the strength that I get to go do. So where's my vulnerability is to sit in front of people and say, like, go. I just sent 2 people. And they're like, but you didn't go. And I'm like, that's why I'm telling you to go. And that's how we're vulnerable. Like, I wish I would have. I'm thankful every day where I'm at, but I wish I would have got the help sooner. I wish I would have had these men in my life, right? What's the good book tell us, right? As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And it takes this village to do it. And that's what we're showing them.
I love that. What
I want
what
to, no, sorry, Chris. I want to say, go do something. Like, I don't used to be like, oh, come to Deer Hollow. We're the best. Go anywhere, do something, do anything. And that's the great thing is the state is going to present. The state has a lot of good lists. There's a lot of good resources in Washington State. There's a lot of good places out there. We could name off. When we started naming them, we got over 20. I want to be very clear. This training isn't to say go here or go there. This training is to say do something. It really is. And here's a lot of options that you're going to hear from. You're not going to just hear personal stories. That I think is the best thing. There's nothing better than our experience and dedicating our time, as you said, Chris. But you're going to get a lot of modalities, a lot of options. Do something, go someplace, ask for help, take the action. And that's the problem, is that for so many years, you hear it, you feel good about it, and then you walk out the door and you don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So
people have to make that choice.
The whole goal is to persuade people to know there's options, know what they are, and to do something.
Yeah, chiefs and sheriffs can create the best wellness program in the freaking universe. And I've been saying this now for a few months. It isn't going to make a difference if firefighters and paramedics and police officers and dispatchers and all of the first responders, if we don't make a personal choice to actually do those things. There's no magic pill. There's no magic fairy dust. Counselors can't x-ray your brain. Well, I mean, there are some different brain scans, but you guys get my point. We have to do the work. We have to step into it. What are some of those other disciplines? And I'm going to ask you, Matt, just because I've sat through and I've listened to. I mean, that's the reality. I remember the training. You don't just give us one thing. You give us some ideas of how we could partner with mental health professionals. You give us ideas of what I could do all by myself. What are some of those things that, and you don't have to go into deep into it, but what are some of those things that you equip firefighters in this context with so that they can start the healing process?
There are some very actionable steps that people can take to improve. Like one of the main things. So I'm actually right now just got done at First Responder Conference out in Coeur d'Alene. This whole talk I do is 1.5 hours on sleep, right? And so literally just got done with that, talked to a bunch of people. It's lunch, boom, right here, doing it again. And what I talk about up there, this morning, 10 a.m., telling people how to sleep better. You got to move your body. Go freaking move your body. If you move your body for 30 minutes a day, we have data galore on this. It's more effective at healing, treating, and managing anxiety, depression, mild to moderate post-traumatic stress disorder, mental illness. Moving your body is a better help for mental illness than literally any selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor medication, any of the main Prozac style medications that you're getting out there. You move your body 30 minutes a day, it's more effective. This is what the research is saying. And so what we've done as we've gone around with these trainings is I bring in what is working, what we know works, what the science says is effective at treating mental health issues. And it's actionable stuff. It's not just like, well, here's what probably works. It's like, no, the research says this. I've tried this myself. We do this at the treatment center. We teach this. My therapists that I train, they teach these people, teach their clients this. And when they do it, All of a sudden they get better. Start with movement, right? That's like a simple thing. And people know this. So now it's like, okay, how do I motivate people to move? How do I give people the action to move? And I say, okay, I got a really great idea. Before you move, go jump in freezing cold water. Try it for 30 seconds. Go jump in some freezing cold water. That can be in your shower, in your bedroom, in your house. That can be in a freaking cold plunge in your backyard. You get out of that freaking cold, you're going to want to move your ass. And now we have a 1-2 punch combo. Very actionable, but you have to have a mental battle with yourself and you have to wrestle and you have to say, okay, I hate the way that I feel day in and day out. I got to trust random Quackenbush dude and all these other people and maybe some data. I got to trust that this is going to work. And I got to get in that stupid cold water. That's dumb. That is
What did we do
There's no way this
at
could
6
work.
a.m.? What did we do at 6 a.m.?
Did you guys do it this morning?
We jumped in the lake in Coeur d'Alene, man.
Of course you did. That's a beautiful place to jump in the water.
It was
32
awesome.
degrees. I actually was afraid.
Because
it sucks,
you're
man.
a human being. That's why.
But
That
the
was
thing
awful.
is like,
I wanted to be there so bad.
I know, dude. I would have loved if you could. We did it when I went up to Washington, Stronger Families or whatever. I convinced him to come with me and my wife. We went in the water, and freaking, you got addicted to that stuff, man. You've
Lake
been going in
Washington,
almost
yeah.
every day.
Yep. I go right out the sound.
And it's a concept, right? It doesn't have to be that. It's to conceptualize the idea that
Yes,
there are things that will improve my life that are uncomfortable that I know I need to do. I can do those things because I know they'll benefit me, but I can also do them because I want to try something new. That is the skill set. I just want to try something new. I'm curious about what this might potentially maybe do. Curiosity is a contagion. And if we can get people to become curious about their health, about what might work, and kind of nerd out a little bit and listen to some podcasts like what we're doing now, there's something to that, man. It's a perpetual energy. It kind of catches fire and it moves into other things and it becomes a little bit contagious. And then other people start talking about it. You hear this guy, you hear that guy, and you show up and people are like, hey, man, you look good. Why you look so good? Oh, let me tell you about what I've been doing. And you get that feedback. And then now it's like, oh, okay. And somebody comes over and grabs your arm and like, oh, dude, you've been working out. That feels good, right? And we love that.
Actually, I have been. Thank you.
You know what? The gym's over there, right? But that's the thing that we want as human beings. And if you can get a couple people just like catch a little glimpse of that and make a little tiny small change, that contagion of curiosity and change really can be very, very, very effective. More effective than people realize. And that's my methodology that I've used in therapy for literally 2 decades. And what's cool is it works. I mean, that's why we're here, because that's how we do it,
And I know you guys offer up a lot more in the training because, again, I've seen it. Let's talk about some of these nuts and bolts. What have you done to organize these trainings across Washington State so we can connect with as many firefighters as possible? And this is really for anyone.
Go, John.
Think so? Okay.
How did you get this out there, man?
Yeah, so I think one thing that happened, Washington State did it, 2 years, the Washington State Council of Firefighters, they saw a need and so they filled it. And so in that last little bit of discussion, I heard, to me, what I heard was peer support teams. And I heard it when Jordan said, what did we do this morning? It was a we issue. It wasn't Jordan said, what did I do? It was a we. Matt talked about curiosity. Well, in order to feel your curiosity, you got to have somebody to be curious with, right?
Yeah.
And so essential for firefighters is peer support, which really, it really is, it's so simple, it's ridiculous. It's really just 2 people that happen to know each other, that have some similarities. Maybe they work the same shift at the same station, or they've worked around each other for a number of years, so they know each other, they're familiar with each other. One of them is having a hard time, but he can't go home and talk to his wife. There's no way he's going to admit to his wife that he's having a hard time. He can't admit to his crew that he's having a hard time, or his boss that he's having a hard time. But this guy, Joe, that he's known Joe for 20 years, that maybe they went through the academy together, and he knows Joe's on the peer support team. So he goes over and he says, Joe, I got to tell you, I have not been doing good lately. He's willing, like Greg said, he's willing to get vulnerable. And the only reason he's willing is because he's sitting there. Jordan talked and Matt talked about the guys sitting in the back room with their arms crossed. Why? They're not familiar. Matt's got all the knowledge. He's got it right here. You got to do like Tim and just go talk to him. But a firefighter's just not going to do that. But they'll go talk to the guy they went to the academy with. And so we've got to build out our peer support teams, and we got to get them back to that core mission where it's just somebody who who you're willing to sit down and have an honest discussion with. So the state council formed a statewide behavioral health committee. We've got a coordinator in each area of the state. They're working to get connected with the peer support team coordinators in their area so that we can start pushing information out, collecting information, and bringing these peer support teams along and making sure that they're staying at that core job that they have. And I think that's the key. That will help get them in the door. That will turn on that curiosity. That will share the experiences where it's like, come on, we came in together. Why is it that you look like you're doing so good and inside I'm dying? What's the difference? Oh, you need to go to this class. You need to call this phone number. You need to call Greg Rudiger up in South County. He's got some help for you. And so we've got to make sure we have that in place. And so we're going to do these one-day events. We're going to do them around the state. You know, we started over here on the west side, then we're going to move east side, and we're going to go back and forth until we can get around and get as many people as we can to come and spread the word.
What cities are you guys going to?
Jordan, you probably know it better than any of us. We're going to start in Kent, right? King County, South King County.
Then 2 weeks. So 2 weeks on March 14th in Kent will be the first that we have. The event is on Eventbrite. We have a flyer. John and everyone has sent this to everyone in the state, all the peer support leads. This flyer has gone out to everyone. It has QR codes, it has links, it has all the things that make it so easy to register for it. And then in 2 months, so about 62 days, on May 2nd, we'll be in Spokane. I was able to go look at the Spokane Training Center today and check that out. That is going to be it's a great facility. That's going to be awesome. And that Eventbrite is live, and that flyer is live and out there. You can find it on Eventbrite, and it's going to come out. If you are a firefighter in Washington, there's no way this isn't going to come to you in email, and hopefully it comes in text and you guys hear about it here. And then we're going to jump back over, and I think the next one's going to be Vancouver. Yep. And I think it's going to be a busy fall because I wanted to do 4 this year, 1 per quarter. That's what I asked Tim for his bandwidth. And John pushed us, wanted 6. And I think we met in the middle to do 5 in 2025. So then we're going to come back and do Vancouver in September. And I think we're going to jump over into September, October. We'll do Tri-Cities. And then we'll come back over for, I think December is when we pick the date. I don't have them in front of me, to be up in Snohomish County.
Love it.
And then we'll start 2026. We'll start 2026 and go down to the Peninsula and Olympia area. And so we make sure that everyone, all firefighters in the entire state, have an opportunity to participate.
I love this. And what does the training cost?
It's $50 for the individual. Spouses are free. And we did like an early bird thing where if it were for peer support, and I think that we should probably do an early bird for the Spokane.
Yeah.
If you were peer support and registered by it was a reduced cost, up to 100% reduced cost. So lunch will be provided. We'll also have notebooks, pens, refreshments, snacks throughout the day, and entertainment will be provided. I know we didn't put that on the flyer, but entertainment will be provided.
You know, Matt mentioned
right,
he dances on stage sometimes. I never saw that though. Is
That's
this something
exactly
new
what
you've
I'm talking to.
the
Dance.
firefighter training option?
You're gonna have to see, man. My dancing skills. I've been practicing in my bedroom by myself.
Snohomish was December 12th is what I have on the calendar.
Okay. Yep. Well, I'm gonna have to come out when you guys land here in the Tri-Cities. I'll put on my firefighter T-shirt that I have when I was supporting their firefighter union here locally, and I'll just sneak in the back with this beard. I think people will be like, yeah, he's probably a firefighter. So maybe I'll shave off the beard and also have one of those big handlebar mustaches like John. I don't know. What do you think?
I like it.
Leave the
You know,
beard. Beard is beautiful.
as
Yeah, that's a
I'm
good looking beard, dude.
as I'm thinking about it, there's no reason. This is for firefighters, and the Washington, the council's a part of this, and that's who it's gone out to. But I don't see how anybody in the first responder community could not benefit from attending this. So
Yeah.
whether that's dispatch, right, whether that's admin, whether that's anybody that just wants to understand or know more about this, and that's why it's so important that the spouses are coming. I'm surprised how many spouses actually have signed up for this, because it's a we thing. It's a family problem. It's a family solution.
Yeah.
And so that's why
we've
it's
got
so
some
important.
counselors. We got some counselors, I think, that are going to attend as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things I appreciated about the training when you all came here to the Tri-Cities. Now we're dating this back like 3 years ago, I think, with the first time you guys came, Matt and Jordan. But you guys did open it up to families, and we had spouses, we had adult children come, and it was relevant for them. I'm telling you, my healing process has been a large part, whether someone needs to go to inpatient or not. When your family can understand the science behind what's happening inside of our brains and bodies, they're more leveraged to work with you on this, right? Like my wife knows that if I start to drive a little fast in the car, sometimes I'm oblivious to it. I don't even realize I'm having a reaction to something. She'll just gently reach over and touch my leg and be like, "Hey, babe, how you doing?" And this took us a lot of learning. This was after Deer Hollow, after the training, after I went to inpatient, that we learned how to communicate with each other. And sometimes I'll be like, "I'm fine. Why? What's up?" She's like, "You're going 15 over the speed limit, babe." I'm like, "Oh, crap." And then I'll start thinking, I'll be like, "Oh, I drove past that house, the baby death. Yep, that one gets me." And I don't even notice it. I don't even realize it. I start having this amygdala reaction to locations where I've had these huge stressors. So I think bringing the family into this is so critical for firefight, again, for all the different professions, because it will really help us do better in our transition from home life to work life and back.
Well, and the cool thing about that story, Chris, is like rewind. I'm not sure if this is what it's like in your car, but I enter in the same situation. One of the reasons I relate to first responders so well is because I'm freaking jacked up all the time too, man. I got my PTSD stuff I got to deal with, childhood and professional and vicarious trauma and yada yada. So I get triggered in the car all the time, and spouse next to you, right? Greatest trigger, biggest help, take your pick. She's got to learn too to put her hand on your leg, right? Rather than doing the thing that I don't know if your wife does this, but I've heard other wives also do this, to go and grab the steering wheel, or like slam or like whatever, and like jerks me, and I'm like, are you okay? And now it's this thing, and my adrenaline's even higher, and I didn't even know, and we argue, but she's learned. I know the signs, I know the symptoms. All I got to do is put my hand on his leg, and it's this little, gentle, subtle signal that's communicating effectively
Yes.
what it is that I'm trying to communicate, which is I'm noticing something. That's it. And learning how to do that effectively is a skill set. And we have to learn what works and what doesn't. And trial and error is a great method for learning things, but why not skip trial and error and just learn what the data says is actually effective, and use techniques that have been tried and tested and are evidence-based to deal with that situation? We know what they are. There's dozens of them. You just got to pick and choose which ones work and talk about it.
And see, here's the thing. They didn't teach me that at the police academy. Firefighters in the room? Did they teach you that at the fire academy?
No, not at all.
No. We didn't
I'll
learn
be super
that.
honest. They didn't teach me that in therapy school either. Like I had to go read a book and learn about it and take an extra class. And then I had to sit down with my sweet wife and be like, "Hey, honey, when you gasp and like punch the dash, like my adrenaline spikes," you know? Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I think too, for spouses, it's really difficult because they see something in you that's not right. And I know I can speak for my wife. She thought it was her. She thought she was the problem.
Yeah.
She thought she said something or she did something or whatever because that's what she saw. And she couldn't see it beyond what she saw. So she didn't know about the calls that I dealt with at work or whatever stress that I had at work. she never saw that. She never heard it because I'm sure like everyone else in this room, protects their spouse, protects their family. And so I would come home and the question was, hey, how was your shift? And my response was fine. and that to her was, you don't want to talk to me. And something's wrong. And I must have done something wrong that's upset you because you've been gone for two, maybe 3 days. And now you come home and I say maybe a sentence or two to you, and you're very short and you're not nice and you're not polite and you're not loving.
Yeah.
So it must be me. And I think that happens a lot in our first responder world, and that's where we're trying to get these tools out there and the training out there on how do you decompress after you've had a really crappy shift, and how do you get back home and re-engage in a healthy way so your spouse and your kids understand that you really do love them and that you really do care about them, and you're thankful that they are supporting you even though you're having a rough shift.
Yeah.
I think that's vital. And that was one of the things that I really did wrong. And my wife, when I first heard my wife say, I thought I was the problem all these years, I lost it.
And you did it wrong because you didn't know any better. And I'm not trying to make an excuse because I own my behaviors, right? But I didn't know any better. I'm a third generation cop, like Greg's a third generation firefighter. And my grandpa is a great grandfather. My dad is a great dad. But they didn't know. My dad has in reflection of my experience, my dad has told me, Chris, there were so many of us in my generation walking around diagnosable PTSD, but everyone else just called them a-holes because that's kind of what they turned into. They were just jerks all the time to everybody. And that's not who they used to be. You know what I'm saying? And so that change in them, and I don't know, what do you guys think within the policing world? I'm seeing a younger generation that's more open to this. And some of that's on us in a good way. Some of it is the fact that there's some of us that are being courageous enough to talk about this stuff when there still is some stigma lying around. But I don't know, what are you seeing in the firefighter world? Are you seeing a younger generation of firefighters and paramedics that are more apt to step in and talk about this stuff?
Much more. We're hiring firefighters. They've already been in front of a mental health professional. It's not an odd thing for them. It's a natural thing for them. And I don't know, somebody else would have to show me how that happened, when that happened, why that happened. I can only assume that there's, that their parents, were just more enlightened than I was, that just had better information than my parents had. And it was just more normal to them. But I think in society, we talk about it a little bit more. Now, the problem is they come in better, but if we're not changing the culture that's already in existence, they know how to get in line. We tell them in the academy, you better get in line. Don't get out of line. And so if we're not backing that up, changing that existing culture, we'll lose that as well. So we got to keep working on it.
Yeah. What are you seeing, Greg, with that younger generation? Same thing?
The hard part is that we're dealing with, it's not just the younger generations, is that we have 4 generations in the firehouse.
Yeah.
And it's very different. And a lot of times, trying to battle the old dog, right? Like us in the room and, old school, we don't want to talk about it. Well, they're over there like, we got the balance of, I don't want to work overtime, and no, I'm good. And like, I don't do babies. I'm like, wait, whoa, time out, right? So the pendulum's swinging both ways. So it's a very, very unique situation right now where they're more susceptible, or they're more acceptable to that, but they're more susceptible to what the job actually is. And so now we're throwing a whole new dynamic into the mix of, dude, it's go time, right? We got to compartmentalize, right? Again, I go back to the special forces of the civilian world. And I'm not saying the way that we were trained or the way that I trained or, the paramilitary militant, right, it is the correct way, but it also got a standard. So when the bell went off and I said, do this, I wasn't questioned with, I don't really like heights. I'm not going to climb the aerial. And I'm like, get your ass up that thing
This
and
is
get on the
not
nozzle.
optional.
What are you talking about? Like, get the fire, get up there,
Yeah.
And so that's really, really unique and finding that. But I think the two can help each other. And that's what we're trying to facilitate is we're using the strengths of these generations in the fire station by making it more acceptable. And that's really, again, it goes back to the vulnerability for me to be like, hey man, I know I'm old school, telling you, but I have to do things a little bit differently. And so there is that, and then part of the other issue too is the fact that I don't know that, like Tim said, the trauma that I dropped on my wife Carrie and my kids, I led the impression that what? I'm a great dad. What are you talking about, honey? I cooked dinner. Like I just like the taste of Coors. It was only one tequila. Right.
Just a really big
and so and we rationalize, to the point where I didn't even know that I was doing that to my wife.
Yeah.
And it was an invoked reaction. And again, I'm thankful for her every day. But it's the same in the fire station. Is I don't think that some of us don't live in the awareness of what we're actually doing. Right. We use the stress continuum in our world. Right. And then we operate. There's the two kinds of red. You get the reds that I call the fuck it's, just fuck everything, fuck the world, fuck my life, I'm out, right?
Yeah.
That's where I was hitting rock bottom. And then you have the red where I'm not red, I'm green. I'm in flow state. I'm great. What are you talking about, honey? This is awesome. Yeah. I'm a great dad. Well, the world's unraveling around you. And that same thing's happening in the fire station to some degree. Right, where we're having the multi-generational thing. And so we're having these conversations. And the biggest thing is that communication of vulnerability to be like, hey, I understand that this is kind of how it was, and they can appreciate a little bit of the old school, but we're also appreciating that new school to be able to talk about and realize. Here's the other thing. We're realizing that a lot of this generation that's coming into the fire service, and I think the next generation, like my kids that want to get in the fire service, it might swing a little more. This isn't a lifestyle for them. It's a job, and they in 20, 10 years, I'm going to move on to this. This is fun because that's just the world we live in. Unfortunately, with these bad dogs, it's so rapid fire, and so
constantly going. Yeah,
really, really unique when we come across that. So that's what we're building in, and we're doing an excellent job by introducing it at the academy to give them the resiliency aspect. Right. So they're getting it in the academy. And just like if there's a new technique for cutting a hole in a roof, that the whole crew needs to know it. So we're bridging that gap, which is not necessarily what we're doing in this training. Right. We're just getting the resiliency out there. But yeah, it's a very unique situation having 4 generations in a fire station.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for this training, gentlemen. I'm excited about you guys bringing this together and putting the tools in people's hands. That's the thing is when you have this mystic thing that's wrong with you can't figure out, or you just need to get help. That's kind of crippling for me. When I can get support and training and you give me tools of things that I can do for the healing process, I feel empowered. And Matt, I've sat through the training, brother, and I felt empowered. The first time I felt empowered. The second time, actually, I was in a worse spot and my head was spinning and I just didn't let anyone know about it. And a few months later, I'm making some phone calls and, going somewhere. But it's because the check engine light was on. That was the thing. And that's what I'm hoping our firefighters, our paramedics, police officers, across the profession, dispatchers, corrections, I'm hoping they're hearing in this message is that this training is really to help you get curious with what's going on inside of you, giving you some tools to manage the day-to-day, and giving you even more tools in case managing the day-to-day isn't working, right? Because here's the deal. This is an injury. You can get better. You can get better. You just have to find the right training, the right support to do it, to heal up. And you're not in this alone. There, like Jordan said earlier, there are so many resources out there. You don't want to go to Deer Hollow? Okay. We know of a dozen other places around the country that you could go, But I'm telling you, the training that y'all are offering and the support that I got while I was there was life-saving.
Love it.
It's good to hear.
Yeah. And I would add to this training, like an essential component of just this idea of health in general. The way that I phrase it is like, no one's freaking coming. Like, this is on you, dude. If you're struggling and you're hurting and you're like bleeding out all your shitty emotions all over your family members, and they're like pulling away from you, and you're becoming more and more isolated and angry and pissed off at the world and victimy and blamey, like, that's on you, bro. And we have, and that's kind of like with this younger generation, that's what pisses us off about them, because they're kind of like, well, you know, that guy, he's the problem and this is the problem, and I don't want to climb the ladder because after step 14 I get dizzy, like, too freaking bad, get up the ladder. And then we bitch and moan that they do that, but we're okay to do it. No, I call bullshit. Like, this is on you. If your life sucks, your life sucks. What are you going to do about it?
Yes.
It's a big component to this training and to the message that we carry across the state, across the nation, right? Like, this is your life. You have everything within you that you've ever needed. You were born with everything you need. You have it. Access to resources and skills and tools. You have everything within you that you need to be able to go access those tools and skills and resources, but you've got to do it. So let us help you do it.
Yes.
And that's what we really want to communicate to people. Let us help you do it. You might not know what to do. We do. Let us help you.
You have to have the courage to do the things. You have to have the courage to make the phone calls. You might have to have the courage to go somewhere for the actual healing and training to take place. But you're right. You have the agency. Your chief and sheriff can't, your fire chief, your police chief, your sheriff, your director, they can't do this for you.
No.
Your wife can't do it for you. Your
wife,
husband,
nope.
Nobody, your kids.
You got to actually make the decision. Now, having the support of all those people, that makes it easier. It really does.
Yeah.
It makes it so much easier. My wife
100%.
told me go. My police chief told me do whatever you got to do to heal up. That made it super, well, it didn't make it super easy. It made it easier. I still had the little small voice in my head saying, you're a failure. You're in charge of peer support. You should have all this figured out, you know, blah, 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 you failure. And so you still have to have the courage to then, you know, follow through and do the things. But I really like what you said there, Matt, because again, you're not a victim, folks. You're not a victim. We chose these jobs, and they have a consequence. And you've done courageous work, like you've alluded to a couple times, Greg. This is like the special operations of the military. This is like professional sports that you're all out there doing. Injuries happen. Now, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to heal up?
Yeah, and I like to use the analogy. It probably dates myself for the new generation, but I tell them it's like the choose your own adventure books. It's the intentionality. I pulled that book off the shelf, and now I'm going to take a space trip to Mars, and I'm reading, and I have a choice. Do I go to page 96 or am I going to page 129? I went to 96 and I got eaten by an alien. Of course, I always cheated and just went back and then went to page 129. Right? We have all the answers. Right? It's a choose your own adventure. But having the intentionality to go to page 96 and realize you get eaten by a monster, and then have the grace to go back and try something new in that moment. And that becomes relatable. Again, it becomes relatable and tangible to people. Like Matt said, it's all right in that book. All you got to do is open it up, but no one's going to make that decision for you. You have to. And that's part of what I share, right? Is that rad way of recognizing, acknowledging, and then deciding is the big one. And that's how you grow.
Love it. I know you've already mentioned, Jordan, and anyone can answer this, that this is on Eventbrite. People can start registering for at least the initial trainings right now. Is there a one place where people can go to get access to all the different training dates and then to go to the Eventbrite registration?
Not yet. We haven't put them in a centralized location because this started as a simple conversation with Greg in October.
Okay.
And Tim in October, and said, hey, I want to do this. And then by January, I think by the end of December, I said, hey, I want to do this every 2 weeks. We're going to get on a phone call and make this happen. And then Greg brought in John and some other people. And then I just said, hey, by the end of the month, I'll have this. By the end of February, I will have a location and a flyer for Spokane in March. and that was completed yesterday. So we're early stages. We just have dates, and I love it because it's like, hey, in 2 months we're doing this, and that excitement is, and not well thought out, not well planned, but it's going to be great, and they're just going to get better. So we will put them all on deerhollow.com, deerhollowrecovery.com, and I'm sure we can do links on the state and social media. And after this is posted up, they'll be out there, and they'll be out there and everywhere, and extremely accessible for people in Washington State to find.
You guys
I love it.
And right. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, listeners can follow any one of us on social media. I'm at Matt_Quackenbush on Instagram. That's probably the easiest place. I post about this kind of stuff all the time. You'll have access to it. That's a really easy way too. And then I always am linking up to Deer Hollow, First Watch. Greg and Tim and I are always collaborating when we're posting stuff too. So follow any one of us and you'll be able to get all that information if social media is your jam.
Well, I'm going to make that really easy for the listeners. Look down in the show notes, and I'm going to get the different social media handles and websites from all these gentlemen. And if you look down in the show notes, it'll be one click, make it super easy for you. Gentlemen, time is my greatest commodity. I can't make more of this stuff. And not just today, but collectively, this group of men has given me so much. So I just want to say thank you and keep doing the great work that you're doing.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Chris.
Stay
Thank you,
rad.
Chris.
Stay rad, Chris.
Absolutely. Radical, baby. Radical. That's going to flashback look. All right, gentlemen, you guys have a great day.
You too.
Wow, folks. I don't know what else to say other than wow. I was blown away by being in the virtual space with that many remarkable men that are really trying to make a difference in the lives of our fire community. Greg, that was the first time I had met him. First time I had met John. Blown away by them. I have history, and I've met with Matt Jordan. Talton was my roommate when I was at Deer Hollow, so a lot of strong relationships with those three men. But I'm excited about this training. And as I said there in the episode, I'm excited about when it comes here to the Tri-Cities, checking it out and just seeing what they're doing. I've seen the law enforcement version of this, but they're really branding this towards the fire service because we want to make sure that our firefighters, our paramedics have the resources they need to have full lives and full careers. Folks, Jaimie and I want to hear from you. How are we doing here on the podcast? There's a few different ways for you to communicate back to us. First and foremost, please follow us on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. That will cause the next episode to come up. You can also rate and review us if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. There's 5 stars waiting on our main page. We'd really appreciate a 5-star rating if we've earned 5 stars, folks. If we haven't earned 5 stars, keep your stars. Instead, shoot me an email at chris@gravityct.com. Let us know how to make it better. Future Mighty Monday motivational topics or guests for me to interview. Folks, we only get to live this life once. Let's go out and take care of the people in our tribes. Take care of each other. God bless.